Now today's activation is going to be a little bit different. It's windy, but it's sunny. And we're up here at Mirror Lake. Now for this setup, there's the north side of the lake here, and it's a good 20 feet down here to the bottom, maybe 25 feet. So I'm up here on the road, and I'm setting up the PRV. This is the Chameleon PRV1, and I'm setting this up for 40 meters. And because I've got the road nearby me, literally I'm on the side of the road, I'm not going to be able to run my radials anywhere out here. So I'm choosing to do 2 radials here. I've got one going over to that tree and one over to this tree. So I'm going to use these 2 radials. That's my antenna, and that's going to be facing east. Now the reason I chose this setup is, well, I didn't want to throw a rope up in the tree. I was easily able to get to the side of the trees here, which makes it a elevated radial, and it's not too far off the ground. Should be just right. So I'm using the ground mount right here with the little extenders to get it a little bit off the ground, with my RF choked coax going back 50 feet so I can go further if I like. And I'm leaving my bag of my PRV parts bag here. It's my little, I had my friend make this for me. And I'm going to leave that here. Hopefully it'll dissuade someone from pulling down the road and parking here, because this is a pretty popular spot. And as the afternoon wears on, people are going to just take over this place. And that's another reason I couldn't or didn't want to take the antenna down here by the lake, because down there people are going to be fishing. And having 12-foot radials everywhere, it's just going to be in the way. People are going to trip over it. They're going to say all kinds of stuff about hogging the space. So this gets me out of the way. It's going to be a little bit noisy. And I've got my Heil headphones that I'm going to be using for this activation. Now I'm using the FT710 radio. This was in the camper for doing my activating, because I can do 100 watts if I like. And that's running over here to my 12-volt battery. That's going to be my 50 amp hour Vatra battery. That should provide at least 50 watts of power, I think. And the reason I'm showing you all this detail is, well, yesterday I took out the KX2, which is 5 watts on its own power, 10 watts if I hook a battery to it. CQ Parks on the Air, Kilo 7 Sierra Whiskey. It was a beautiful location, and I was using an end-fed antenna up off the ground. It should have been really good, but band conditions were horrible, so even people running high power, and they just weren't hearing me. So I was lucky to get the people that I did. So this time I'm taking this radio out here. I'm really hoping it goes okay. So I don't want to damage this radio, and it's big. I have to be careful about how it's set up here on the table. And I'm using this portable collapsible table to set the radio on. And I'll be sitting in the chair over here. I'm going to be operating or logging with my phone. So let me show you a little bit farther distance to give you an idea of how this is set up. This is the road going uphill, which is the way we would go back. I'm parked along the side of the road here with trying to operate on the side of the truck, and maybe that'll provide me a little bit of quietness from or road noise mitigation. Let's set it up and see if I can make some contacts. Hopefully someone can spot me, because there is no internet service here. I'm going to use the hand mic. It's proven to be pretty good. It's got good audio reports, and I've got the equalizer set for that. Now it's time to have some fun. And for logging, I'm going to be using the Hammers app on my Android phone. CQ Parks on the Air, CQ POTA, CQ Parks on the Air, Kilo 7 Sierra Whiskey, activating park US 4398.
Whiskey Alpha 7, Mike Lima Delta Portable. You are 5353 into Washington, 53 into Washington, over.
So I've got you at about a 5.2, 5.2, perfect copy. Thanks for helping me activate this park today.
Alpha Golf 4 Hotel Golf.
Alpha Golf 4 Hotel Golf, thank you so much for the call. You're about a 5.8, 5.8 here into my location, US 4398, over.
Alpha Golf 4 Hotel Golf, you were 5 and 7 into Tennessee, Tango November.
CQ POTA, CQ Parks on the Air, Kilo 7 Sierra Whiskey.
Kilo 2 Mike Alpha Bravo.
Kilo 2 Mike Alpha Bravo, thank you for the call. You're a 5.9 here into my park US 4398 in the mountains of Utah.
Kilo 7 Sugar Delta.
Kilo 7 Sugar Delta, boy, that's pretty similar, huh? Thank you for the call. You're about a 5.8, 5.8 here into US 4398 on the Mirror Lake Highway. Go ahead.
I got you at a 5x1, 51, Phoenix, Arizona.
Kilo 7 Sierra Whiskey for Parks on the Air.
Whiskey Zulu 7 Hotel.
Thank you for that, Whiskey Zulu 7 Hotel, a 5.8, 5.8 to 5.9 here into my location, US 4398. Back to you.
Yeah, Roger, Roger. I got you at about a 5.5 into Oregon, Central Oregon. Yeah, thanks for the activation. You have fun out there. Be safe.
I got a few more contacts. I'm pretty sure if I was on 10 watts or 5 watts on the KX2, there's no way I would have had any contacts. It's just that bad. But all in all, setting up the PRV1 in this configuration, it was simple. I only had to walk down to these trees down here to get that set up. And as I mentioned before, Chameleon did send me out this antenna to test and try out here in the wilderness, or the kind of places that I activate. So I would call that a win for this antenna today. Setting up the PRV1 is a simple setup. It's easy to do. You don't need any ladders or any kind of ropes to get it on the air. So at the next activation, hopefully I can set out more radials and we can use it the way it was intended. Today I'm out here portable operating in the middle of the desert. So I'm going to show you how to set this thing up, what some of the components are around the antenna, so you can decide for yourself if this is an antenna you need in your Go Kit. There'll be a link in the description below for this antenna. But before you do that, let me show you how this thing works. The parts that come in this antenna kit are the stainless steel whip, the adjusting coil for setting your frequency, 4 12-foot long radials, a puck mount with all the banana clip holes mounted in it, and 2 1-foot extensions that screw together that raise your antenna up off the ground, the hardened ground stake that goes into the ground like you'll see with a lot of the other Chameleon antenna kits, line winders for your radials, and a section of coax with RF choking built into it. And that's enough to get us started for setting up this antenna. And in this case, I've got all this ground out here at my campground that I could be setting up this antenna because I don't need a tree. Now, because I don't have an entrance point for my coax at this point, I just decided to go through the window, and I put some cloth with a rag in there and shut the curtain. That way you don't have any bugs or anything, dirt coming in through that window, or cold air at night. This makes setup an awful lot easier. I extend the coax out to where I think it's going to be, how far I can have this antenna set up for the ideal location. Now the ground mounted stake is really easy to pound into the ground. This first rod is removed, and then you can pound the surface here. If you use a stick or a rubber mallet, that's going to make that thing last a lot longer. And for this setup, I'm using the 2 mast extensions that come in the POTA kit, 1-foot section each, and they both screw together. This gets the whole antenna up a couple feet off the ground. And it's been my experience with doing verticals, elevated verticals, having them off the ground, whether I'm using a tripod or I'm using a different kind of mast to get this thing up in the air, they really perform well. Having your elevated radials at an angle to the ground, that seems to be the key for me. The next component on this antenna is the puck. This has a bunch of different banana clip holes with all the radials. They're pre-wired and pre-shrink wrapped in with the Kevlar wire going back down here. These are all designed around this puck so you can plug them right in easily, if I could do it with one hand. And then you can add or remove radials very easy. So if you're in a setup where you wanted a bunch of radials, you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 radials. And that could be a help. Also got the coax connection right here. This makes it easy to run just right off the end of this and then back over to the radial. Now with each of these 4 supply radials that you get with the package, they're 12 feet long. And they've got the little O-rings, which are pretty standard. It's classic Chameleon antenna setup. All of the ends come with a wire terminated with their little plastic rings for mounting this to the ground. In this case, I'm using the supplied tent stakes, and this just fits right around it. Now, the key to the PRV, which is the Portable Resonant Vertical antenna, is this coil. With this Delron insulator in here, they've wrapped all the coils around it, and you can adjust your antenna by using this little plastic wing nut. And what's nice about this is I'm going to loosen this up with one hand, and I can rotate this. This just slides up and down. The inside of the adjuster here rubs along the inside of each of these coils each turn. When you get this thing down to where you need it to be, where it's going to be resonant, you give this a tighten and you're ready to test. Now the manual comes with instructions for using a ruler. So you move this thing up however many inches are required on it. So for 40 meters, I think it's 11 and some odd inches. Measuring this thing gets you in the ballpark of where you need to be for the band that you're going to be using. What's also nice is having the flexible whip. It's about a 4-foot whip. All the configurations say to always have this antenna whip fully extended for each setup, each band that you're working. And I think that's a good thing because it's one less thing to have to deal with. The only thing you're concerned with is adjusting the coil. I've made a few initial contacts with this antenna, which was pretty nice. The noise floor is pretty low with being in this vertical condition, and being that far away from my camper seems to be a good help. I don't get as much interference with my solar panels and my charge controller. Having a ground mounted vertical like out here is fast and simple. You can get this thing up and running in about 15 minutes or less. The better you get at it, the more practice you have with setting up any antenna, the faster you will be. If you're in a hurry and you need to get your antenna set up for a POTA activation or some other setup where you're just going to make a few contacts for a couple hours and then move on, this portable resonant vertical antenna is a good setup. It's fast and easy to do, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. And really, with a 12-foot radius of space, you're not really taking up a lot of room. Having fun operating while I'm out camping is a heck of a lot of fun. When it doesn't go so well, whether the antenna doesn't work or you've got a radio problem or something else, that's less fun. But the more you do this, the more good times you'll have than bad. If there's a takeaway I can give for operating portable, that would be to do it a lot. The more you do a setup, different kinds of setup, the easier it will be, and you won't be so disappointed on the days when conditions aren't good or something goes wrong with your setup. And it will. I really like how easy this is to set up. I would give this a thumbs up, like you should give this video a thumbs up. Now check out one of these videos right here for portable setup and operating, and I'll see you over there.